Hey guys, Desolate Magic here, and hot off the heels of Trump's State of the Union address, we've got, oh yes, a State of the Product Design 2018 by everyone's favorite product architect, Gavin Sweater Vest Verhey. That is his actual middle name, and seriously, where do you even buy a hat like that? Oh wait, the answer is probably Seattle. By the way, here's the thing. Everybody thinks they're from Seattle, okay? They're not. They're from a town called Renton. Doesn't that just sound like a fun place? Renton. Oh, we're gonna go down to Blockbuster and be renting some stuff. Okay, enough Renton humor. So Gavin starts the article by just basically admitting he's blatantly ripping off the State of the whatever the other one is by Mark Rosewater. And since he's one of the main product architects, as he puts it, he's gonna do a State of the Product Architecture, I guess. So he starts with Masters, which if you forgot, starts with Masters 25. Oh, that's one way to open it. He even says, let's start with a bang, shall we? That's not the saying, but let's go for it. We've come a long way on our master sets this year. Really? You went from garbage to, alright. For me, this is really the tale of two very different master sets. You don't say. Masters 25 was a project a while in the making. Ethan Fleischer had the idea a while ago to make an anniversary set with watermarks. Wow, how did you take an idea that basic and screw it up? Was it by selling 10,000 boxes to Sports and More? Is that how it happened? So blah blah blah, we managed to actually get one card from every set in there, which was their main parameter, which is why it fell off the rails pretty quick because it constricted what they could put in it pretty severely, and it still had to be draftable, which made it even narrower. And then he finally says we were all excited, maybe a bit too excited. Yeah, you kind of forgot to take a step back, look at the big picture, and say, is this even a good product that people want to buy, or are we just excited because, ooh, blast from the past? A lot of people at Wizards seem to have really narrow vision when it comes to certain decisions. So then he goes on to say, well, it turns out it wasn't quite the themed Masters set you had been waiting for. The set did fine. Let me stop you right there and jump over to eBay for a second. Yeah, you can still get it sealed for $165 a box. Free shipping. Yeah, no, the set didn't do fine. You are 100% wrong about that. Actually, the full sentence is, the set did fine and probably a lot better than many of its detractors would claim. So in other words, are we at Wizards of the Coast wrong and completely out of touch? No, it's the customers being wrong. Yeah, that must be it. The funny thing is, he actually goes on to admit the big culprit is that it was missing a lot of reprints that people wanted. I mean, I would phrase it as it was missing any semblance of a lot of value. But yeah, that's one way to phrase it. So then he goes on to talk about Ultimate Masters, and this is the first I've ever heard of this. It wasn't originally titled Ultimate Masters, which makes sense because it wasn't supposed to be the last one, I guess. It was either going to be called Graveyard Masters or Immortal Masters. Neat. But seeing how Masters 25 went, we made a late in the game pivot. We wanted to make sure a majority of what you wanted was in the set. We wanted to get those cards out there in one big blast. Did it work? Well, by all accounts, this time around, the set did extremely well. Oh, not by all accounts, like the accounts of how well it was received by people with the giant price spike. Yeah, there was an accompanying value increase with it, but so? I mean, it doesn't bother me, I'm getting what I paid for, but still, a price increase is a price increase, and not everybody can afford any given random dollar amount. That's just a fact. So just another completely ignorant decision by Wizards. They just don't get it. They didn't consider, what are going to be the consequences of this? What's going to be the fan reaction? Will customers actually like this? They're just like, hey, that sounds like a good idea. Let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. And then nobody questions it. Or if they do, they get blown off as, oh, you're just a junior employee and I've been here for 20 years and I know what I'm doing. Even though the people with those attitudes, and yes, I've heard from ex-staff members, those are the attitudes. There is no accountability ever when they do something wrong, and so they live in their own little fantasy world where they are never wrong and everything they say and do is gold. The whole company's burning around them and they don't care. And honestly, I think that attitude and that just mental gymnastics comes from them all being SJWs and just living in some fantasy world where there's 87 genders. And like, if you have a group of 5 people on camera for anything, one of them better be gay, even though 1 in 200 people in reality are. Anything else would mean you're a discriminatory bigot. So then they take that over to their career and they're like, I'm never wrong, I'm right about everything. The entire rest of society all telling me I'm wrong, they're all wrong. Most of the people there really need therapy, they really do. And by the way, the phrasing of this next paragraph is so aggravating. In the end, during the process of tweaking Ultimate Masters, we decided to put the Masters program on hiatus. not cancel it, not terminate it forever. We decided to put the Masters program on hiatus. And then he immediately says, no last minute announcement surprises here. We really and truly don't have any more Masters sets on the horizon. So he's like, oh, hey, by the way, we actually just put it on hiatus. And also it's never coming back, so it's not on hiatus. Well, then I've got an idea. Don't say that. So we're all wondering at this point, what are we going to do about reprints? Because he just got done saying in the above paragraph that, oh, it got the reprints out there in large quantities, and that's great because the cards are actually available. Yay, availability. People can actually play the game. So he goes on to say, with that said, seekers of reprints, this doesn't mean we don't have other ways to get these reprints to you. We know you need them, just no master sets in the near future. Okay, I'm just going to repeat information that was said on one of their live streams, once again, probably by Gavin, and probably wasn't supposed to be public, which is just what he does. We're going to Kamigawa next, by the way. Someone had said that there's a modern-oriented product coming out, and I think, I'm so bad with the actual terminology, but I think they were referring to it being the summer draft set or whatever. I mean, that's what I call it. So whatever that is, it's modern oriented and it's extremely reprint heavy. That's the impression I got from what they said. So basically it's Masters. I mean, I guess maybe they added some rules. Maybe like, oh, they invented some new plane chase thing where there's like a little side game to it. You know, kind of like Conspiracy where they kind of screwed with the draft. They added draft specific mechanics. It sounds like it's just Masters with some hook added. So another interesting thing he says is, finally, I want to touch on the late reveal of Ultimate Masters, because remember, they said it, and they were just like, surprise is coming out in 3 weeks. And everyone was like, what the heck led to this? So he goes on to say, this was something different we tried out here. No, it wasn't. It was an accident. You moved up the date or something. You cannot tell me that was on purpose. You can't possibly tell me that. So he says, yeah, this is something we tried that was different and one of the closest to launch reveals we've ever done. We've been trying different strategies with our reveal windows and seeing what effect this has on our sets. That can't possibly be what it was. I think they were still debating whether or not they should cut them open, add the box topper, and then reseal them, and what the price should be. And then they decided to pull the trigger on it and reprocess them, which means that they couldn't really announce it until it was done. So they had like a month delay and then they announced it late. That's my theory. His ridiculous assertion that it was on purpose, it is just that. It's ridiculous. Hey, want to know why I suspect that? Because he says it took a lot of effort to conceal this release. Okay, first of all, that I believe, because you guys leak everything. And while it was a cool surprise, it also strained some stores and fans as well. That's right, because it was like one paycheck away from when you announced it. Like, people can't just come up with that kind of money out of nowhere. You have to see it coming. And stores ordering $10,000 worth, they have to line up financing. They have to like pay their bills or have the capital available or make sure that they have a sufficient like available balance on their credit card or just whatever. You can't just spring this on people. You can't do that. And they knew that. That's why I don't think this is on purpose. He even just said it stressed out everybody and strained everybody. The stores, the customers, everybody. Then he even admits it was a mistake because he says all of this is feedback we'll consider next time we think about trying an announcement cadence like this. I am not buying it, Gavin. So then he goes on to M19, which was the next set to come out. They were back to core sets. It sold like crap. Distributors couldn't get rid of them. They were toxic assets. Stores had to put them on clearance just about the day they came out. Nobody wanted them. There was no value in them. So in other words, yeah, it's a core set. Congratulations. It has exactly the same problems that you guys said it did the last time when you canceled it. But he's calling it a big stride. Also, apparently, I didn't even know this, the release of M19 brought back the welcome decks, the free decks that game stores handed out to new players, or to interested new players, pardon me. Well, both, I guess. I didn't know they discontinued those. If you recall, they also did 5 Planeswalker decks instead of 2, and that a Johnny card. Good Lord, look that one up. That ensured that stores got stuck with like 3/5 of them almost regardless. They were always sold out of the popular ones. It was the same as Commander. And they also lowered the price, but keep in mind, he didn't mention this, they lowered it from 2 boosters to 1. I'm not sure that this was the set that they did that for sure, actually. And they have done fantastically, according to him. Well, by they, I think he means some of them. like the Johnny one. So he claims the welcome decks did well. I don't really care. I do know that the W16, I think, ones were like horrific. They were a terrible intro to Magic. They were so boring. They were so weak, so stupid, so basic, so tedious. Not a good first impression. The ones that I played with from 2017 were a lot better. And I might completely have those years wrong, by the way. So, fun fact, they say going forward with upcoming core sets, you can expect us to keep this model of doing 5 Planeswalker decks for a lower price because it worked. And then he says, and this is just shockingly stupid, the one thing we've been talking the most about recently is if these need to be only standard legal cards or not. And then he puts in parentheses, and no, this doesn't mean we'd flood these decks with Mythic rare reprints either. So they would not be throwing in non-standard legal cards for value reasons. They would do it for, I guess, deck fun reasons. But then we're back to, oh, you just bought an M20 product. It's a pre-assembled deck. Oh, but unlike the other M20 products, not every card in here is legal and you can't play the deck at F&M. That was literally the reason that they got rid of dual decks, because it was confusing as hell to people. So don't make that mistake twice. I think it's only been 1.5 or 2 years since you stopped making that mistake. So you guys have a short memory over there, don't ya? But then he immediately reiterates what I just said. He says, yeah, we don't want you to buy a brand new product and be new to the game and then get turned away at F&M saying that your deck isn't legal. That's a bad experience. Well, then don't do it, dumbass. Well, then he completely assesses this wrong too. He says, but realistically, if you take a tweaked Planeswalker deck to a competitive F&M, you're not going to have a great experience either. Wrong. If you take one of those as the base and upgrade it, almost every single one is highly competitive. Not tier 1 crush everybody, but like you could win some games and some rounds with it, especially the M19 ones. He didn't say take them out of the package and immediately play with them. He said tweaked, as in upgraded. So if you upgrade the decks properly and put the cards back in that are supposed to be there to make it actually competitive, you could compete at F&M. He is completely wrong by saying that's not going to work. So to add the step of also filtering out all the cards that aren't legal, which would make the deck fall apart, boy, is that a stupid idea. After being all wishy-washy back and forth, he even says, what do you think? What are your thoughts? Let me know. Yeah, everybody let him know how stupid that idea is. Please do. Then they have something called the Spellslinger Starter Kit. Honestly, I don't think I've ever heard of this, and I probably made a video on it. It's like 2 decks, 2 dice, and I don't think, it was only sold in Walmart, I think. Oh, and like Target, Walgreens, GameStop probably too. But I don't know about this product, and I don't care about this product. I know that Galta was on the front, so that pissed me off. Let's go to the next one, Magic Game Night. Remember that one? The weird Pentagon box with the 5 decks in it? His assessment of it was it executed very well with what they were planning to do, but in some ways it was over-constrained, just like every damn product they've ever released. Or side product, I should say, not standard. Their unnecessary, arbitrary, and completely made-up, needless goals were as follows. It had to be half reprints from Core Set 2019 and half from older sets, while also being a good teaching tool, while also being multiplayer friendly and capable, while also having tight central themes. And then they put all that together and wow. So the decks had all different power levels. It wasn't fair. They had a nightmare of a time trying to go through the design process. And he says, well, how did it actually end up? He says it's doing all right so far, though it's too early to tell. Dude, this came out like a year ago or something, didn't it? Or I guess since it's from this state of the whatever the hell. Actually, technically it's 2019, so I have no idea when this came out, but I remember it was a long time ago. It is not too early to tell. He's just, once again, lying. He has the sales numbers in front of him, so unless he's lying to himself and saying, well, maybe they'll all suddenly sell, no, it's not too early. It failed. Nobody wanted it. He even says somewhere in here, if we did it again, I'm confident that we could execute it better. So in other words, the first one failed. By the way, he could have meant it's too early to tell because he says later it usually takes 2 iterations, so 2 releases of the product in different forms before they have a really good idea of how successful it will be. It should not take that long at all. They should have eliminated this product completely or eliminated certain concepts of it during market research. It never should have gotten further than asking the customers if they want it and if they'd be interested in a product like this. And then really quickly asking design, is it doable to hit all these goals? And they would have said no, and they could have left it at that. But Gavin absolutely assures us that Wizards will make the same mistake multiple times before they learn from it. Next up, Challenger decks. He says, well, given that we announced the second round of these recently, it's probably no secret that these did great. Yeah, that's because some of them were worth like $90 and you're selling them for what, $35, $40? Yeah, that'll do it. Plus, the only thing that deckers love more than building somebody else's deck and then crushing people with the sheer power of it is having somebody just build the deck for them in the first place. Like, literally build the deck and then just place it in their hands for money. Hey, maybe for the next release, you should sleeve the cards for them too. Or just include a card that's a 0-cost colorless spell that says whoever spent the most on their deck wins the game immediately. This spell cannot be countered. I think that's what net deckers are really looking for when it comes to Challenger decks. So he heard so many stories about customers buying them and then taking them to competitive events and winning with them. Did you hear the stories about you printing the expensive sought-after cards to death in these decks and then devaluing the crap out of them? Or is it an actual company policy that you don't listen to single sellers or stores? By the way, he does say something very interesting. They locked in the deck archetypes and I guess the exact deck list too, I would assume, shortly after Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica. So they're using Pro Tour Guilds of Ravnica as the guide, which is probably not a good idea. I mean, it's not SCG Open levels of misrepresenting the meta, but like, not only were the decks toxic as hell, but there weren't even 4 of them. I mean, if I'm remembering correctly, wasn't it Red Rush, Teferi 3-color bullshit, and then, what was secondary? Boy, Mono White? Maybe either White-Black Vampires or White-Black Knights was another one that managed to sneak into the top 16. But right now what's popular is like 3-color control, slightly different colored control, other 3-color control, 4-color control, 5-color control, oh, and Red Rush, White Rush, Red-White Rush, and Red-Black Rush. Oh, and red wins, red-black wins, if you want to call it like not rush because it's usually spell heavy. It's more burn, but it's not pure burn, so it's in the middle, which is red rush. Wow, all 3 of those archetypes. Wow. How exciting and fun, and all of them coincidentally don't let a normal person play their normal-ass deck. What a healthy and diverse meta. And now, since we all know one of the Challenger decks is going to have Teferi in it, duh, it's going to be a Teferi control garbage trash deck, they have a damn good reason not to ban him because it'll make the deck dead on arrival. So they basically can't ban anything from it or that deck will be worthless. It'll lose stores money. It'll ruin the entire product. But guess what? It's already ruining the entire game. So now they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. I've got a solution. Don't release Challenger decks at all. They're bullshit. Next up, Battle Bond, or as I like to call it, kind of draftable Commander Masters. So he starts by saying, my baby. I guess he was lead designer on this. Battle Bond, after a very long time to finally get it made. Oh yeah, that's right. This was like finalized like 3 years ago or something. And then they held off in favor of, I don't know, something else, Conspiracy 2 or that, I don't remember. But yeah, they backburnered this for a long time. Assuming I'm remembering that correctly. So he spent many, in italics, many hours working on the set and selecting reprints, and then it finally got out there. So he says people ask him all the time, how did Battle Bond actually do? Then he even admits it's not clear when we have a hit or not. That's because they never release sales numbers, or according to them, everything's doing great. Well, actually, according to him in this whole article so far, yeah, everything's doing great. Like, according to him, Masters 25 was an amazing success with lots of value. What planet do you live on, Gavin? Oh my gosh. So yeah, he's happy to report that it did incredibly well. It hit upon a few big elements, like never before seen cards that every Commander player needs because they're basically $300 dual lands, and a bunch of valuable reprints. Ooh, shocker, big elements. It's really just one big element. Also, it was the Japanese printing, not this Texas garbage that you've been throwing at us. But get this, he says it hit upon a few big elements that we have taken back and started to incorporate into future product designs. Remember, let's combine that with the fact that the next set from this series of draft sets or whatever, allegedly, is like a Modern Masters draft set. I mean, they mentioned Modern by name. It is Modern oriented. That's what they said. And they also said it's kind of like they hinted that it was the replacement for a reprint product. So in other words, it's a mostly reprint product. So it's obviously going to have fetches in it, which is going to make it a rough draft. No pun intended, because everybody's going to want to draft, the money cards, because they'd be 10 plus across the board last I checked. But the odds of a dual fetch land being on color with whatever you're already drafting is astronomical. So I don't think it's going to be a very good draft set, but we'll see. So anyway, he says, for one, it really emphasizes the social play element. So I guess they're boosting that. Playing alongside someone like a significant other or family member is a great time, and especially helps if they're newer too. No, people who are new to the game shouldn't draft. Even I'm terrible at draft, and I'm pretty good at the game. So he's like, yeah, it's just fun. I mean, yeah, draft environments with people where you're totally dicking around the whole time is hilarious, which is how my story usually runs them. Oh, but then they decided to take a quick draft and shove it down some WPN locations' throats. So I guess screw the social aspect and the normal structure of draft. Oh, that's right. It was a two-headed giant set. So like it was like really, really together, I guess. I still think functionally that was dumb and nobody I know drafted this. But then he actually says it. Second of all, it really emphasized once again how important those reprints are for competitive and commander players alike. Dubbed Commander Masters by many. Oh my gosh. I literally did not know that paragraph said that when I opened this section. I'm shocked that he's acknowledging it. Anyway, he says, dubbed Commander Masters by many, it got a lot of important cards back into people's hands. So yes, all of your side products have to have valuable reprints in them. And then they just admitted the next one is going to have valuable reprints in it. I mean, we're putting together the puzzle pieces pretty damn quick here. Oh, FYI, the next draft set might actually be on Kamigawa, and we're not going there for standard. They never said that it would be a standard plane. And if they were going to do some funny little social draft-only special rules, whatever crazy, twist on the game, Kamigawa would be a pretty good place to do it. So I kind of wonder now. I hope it's not just like a straight-up like anime reprint where all the artwork is like 2D animated, like anime style. You have like anime Tamio and anime Jace. Oh my gosh, I would literally buy it just to burn it. I like anime, I just don't like that aesthetic coming into other things, okay? Although I would buy the Chibi Jace, I'm just saying. If they print a Chibi Jace, I'm buying that, but only because I already have the pop vinyl. Oh, and it also might be like a Kamigawa ninja-themed conspiracy. I've heard that rumor floating around, so I guess we'll see. They're going to be announcing this stuff like really soon because it's like coming up really soon. So then he moves on to Commander 2018 edition. And this one did well because he opens it by saying Commander 2018 is full of great learning lessons. I don't think that's a phrase that anybody's ever used before in English. It's full of great learning lessons. Maybe great lessons to have learned, or we learned a lot from it, but it's full of great learning lessons. I love how he actually says, as the lead designer, I read through pretty much every thread. I wonder if he's referring to Reddit, and countless tweets, except that you block everybody that disagrees with anything you do ever. So that's representative. What a great place to get feedback is from people who kiss your ass. I read both praise and plenty of people calling for my head. Oh, okay. Apparently didn't block all of them, including a Reddit thread, which called for me to be fired. I mean, he might be getting that mixed up with my channel, which I guess means I've finally made it as a designer. No, it means do your job better. What kind of mental disability do you have? Seriously. Oh, everybody hates me. I must be doing something right. Is that like some kind of pathological, sociological thing? Narcissistic personality disorder? Is that what it is? Anyway, I made plenty of money on Commander 2018, so all right. I mean, to me it did well, but I don't know like how well received it was. I heard some people didn't like some of the decks and people didn't like the whole, SJW checklist characters, woo. And then he goes on to just mention minor little tiny things like we should have done more land-oriented stuff. Just this one deck had this one tiny problem. I don't think tiny problems are why people were calling for you to be fired. Oh, I guess he admits that the number one complaint was reprints. A lot of cards are brand new and people wanted them, but people don't like new cards that they now need and then they got to cut something from their deck. They want to finish their deck and they want a card to not be $50. They want it for like $10. So you do need to put reprints in these and they put next to none. And I guess that was the major complaint. So are you sensing a theme? People want reprints. People like Battle Bond because it had reprints. And then he mentioned reprints in like every other product. What a wonderful idea to cancel masters, you idiots. Make it once per year. Make it not suck. Ta-da! It's your plan for free money. I mean, these people are so stupid. So the number one complaint was people were like, why didn't you reprint this card by name? This one right here that people have been wanting for Commander forever. Why isn't this in any of the damn decks? And I think a lot of them were actually fetch lands, obviously. But remember, he says the third factor is that we raised the MSRP from $35 to $40. And the reason they did that, in their own words at the time, was to put more value in it because a fetch land is like, in some cases, $20. So you can't just do that. I mean, you can't make a deck worth 110 and sell it for 40. Like, nothing good comes from that. It'll oversell that deck, and then stores get stuck with the other ones, and it's just a mess. And if you make all the decks $100 plus, then people just buy them to rip them apart and sell the singles, and they don't even get in the hands of the people who want them. And then if you do print enough that there's overflow that gets to the actual customers, then you devalued the singles so much that nobody makes any money on ripping them apart, and they get all mad. So I've said it before and I'll say it again, I've said it in multiple videos, it is a very bad product for reprints, value reprints, because of the constraints of the money. So that's why I supported their idea to take a full 100 card deck and sell it for $40 instead of $35. I mean, I thought that's still pretty reasonable, honestly. And the logic behind it was sound, but he does make a good point. They said they were going to do that, and they said more value was going to be put in it, and then they didn't. They took the whole wish list of cards that people wanted reprinted in Commander and just burned it and then just did whatever the hell they wanted. Oh, and by the way, he does, in a roundabout way, accidentally admit that they were lying because he says the MSRP raise of $5 happened after the set was already finished. Remember, Wizard said we raised the price so that we can put more valuable reprints in it. There's more room for more value. But they raised the price after the set was already done. So they changed the price once it was already settled what went into the product. Do you see a little bit of a flaw in logic there? I knew that was a lie. You look at the results and I'm like, well, these are some hot cards and I like the decks and they're selling pretty well, but there are not a lot of reprints in these. So he goes on to summarize, and this is 100% correct. He says the decks did extraordinarily well. They even reprinted them multiple times with multiple waves of restocks, and every single time they sold out. So clearly people wanted to buy them, but there was a group of very pissed off people about what was in them and the price increase and all that stuff. So in other words, a success on paper doesn't actually mean it was a good product, it was proper, that the customers are happy. Good for him to notice that. So the last part is very interesting. I mean, this whole article is interesting. Now, if you weren't happy with 2018's amount of reprints, I could see how you might be concerned reading that. Oh, great, it still worked and sold well, so we can expect the same for 2019. Well, that's why, secondly, I wanted to specifically say that we've taken the community's concerns to heart when designing the Commander release for this year. It's important to have a jolt now and then to reconsider some things, and as the product architect working on all Commander products, I really felt listening to this was important. I thought you'll be happy with what you find in 2019's offering. So 2019 will be value reprint heavy. I think the decks are going to be famously expensive. That's just my opinion, but that is really, really, really good that he said that. That's like the best thing I've read in this entire article, and I don't even care about that product. Then he talks about guild kits. I didn't make videos about these. I didn't look at the deck lists. I didn't buy them. I don't care about these. When I read some of the cards weren't standard, I'm like, well, screw that then. Who would ever want these? And I didn't touch it. He says they did about as well as the Planeswalker decks and the pre-constructed Challenger decks, so good for you. I gotta read this gem. I love building decks. Many of you love building decks too, but it turns out a lot of people love being handed a deck and letting them make tweaks from there. Oh, you had it so right till the end of that sentence. So he said they might not do them every set, but they did pretty well and people like the pins, so they're going to do something similar in the future. So, all right. I'm still not buying them. Those lands, though, those lands were baller as hell. If you haven't seen one of those in real life, oh my gosh, go find some. Then he talks about dual decks, elves versus inventors. Oh, that's right. He's hitting all the products. I remember the first time I ever held a dual deck. I was about 17 years old, part of a Magic podcast. Really? He had a podcast when he was 17? Oh, somebody dig that up and send me a link. And as a holiday thank you, I got a dual decks Elves versus Goblins. Oh my gosh, remember that one? It's terrible. It's not like I played back then, it's just I've seen it. Two of my most hated tribals in the game. I sat down and played with my brother, and we had a blast. Flash forward to over 10 years, which apparently 10 years he thinks is one word. 10 years. Flash forward 10 years. And we've done a lot of dual decks. This year we decided to discontinue them, at least for now. I wouldn't be surprised if we did a few one-off ones for appropriate themes in the future. So in other words, they're coming back. They've already planned it. They probably already have a deck list. They went away because they weren't standard legal. I thought they were wonderful products. The price was right, but the reason they got rid of them was almost entirely because they were not standard legal and people kept trying to bring them to F&M, and that was confusing, and it drove people away from the game that were potential new customers. But as he mentioned above, apparently they don't give a crap about that now. So now he claims they got rid of them because the feedback from stores and players were that they were releasing too many products too quickly and too close together, and people were just sick of it and they couldn't afford them all. So that's why they cut it. But oh, he's so sad because dual decks had so many fans. But he also says another major reason is that they hadn't been selling very well, which that was kind of a surprise. So the next product, and I use that term loosely, was the San Diego Comic-Con Planeswalker stained glass window painting things where Gideon looked like they propped him up like Weekend at Bernie's. I wasn't there. They're overpriced and you're selling the singles. I don't care. I'm literally not even going to read this section. Screw these overpriced location promos. They're bullshit. They're just scalped bullshit. Next up, they have theme boosters. I legit didn't even remember what these were. So he says, back towards the beginning of 2018, I introduced theme boosters and the feedback era, which they still aren't listening to us, and that we were testing a small number of them out in Walmart with Dominaria. See, that's what I thought. They were originally Walmart exclusive, and they were monocolored for Dominaria. And they were just like super boosters. They were like 3 boosters together. I think you got like 3 rares and a guaranteed foil or something. And it was almost like if you scale up the value, that's exactly like you got what you were paying for. So it was just such a take it or leave it forgettable product. I didn't care. But now I think they made them. Yeah, he says, I was happy to report that the test was a big success and they're now part of our main sets lineup going forward. We launched them full bore with Guilds of Ravnica and they continue to be a hit. I mean, it's basically a seeded super booster. So if you know you want to play Simic and you buy a Simic one, great. The problem is the 3/5 problem. A store is always going to get stuck with 2/5 to 3/5 of a product that there's 5 of, because some of them will be popular and some of them won't. So it doesn't matter how well they sell, you're going to get stuck with some of them and have to put them on like fire sale, which is really, really bad. So bad product execution, but I mean, kind of an okay idea in theory. They just don't work in practice. But he said, yeah, the feedback from the customers was great because they aren't store owners and they don't care. They're just like, I want Simic cards. Oh, look, I can buy only Simic cards, but it's still randomized. They're not, buying a pre-made deck. So, okay. And yeah, it was 35 cards, by the way. Oh, and the other thing is you were supposed to be able to just shuffle in 25 lands and boom, you've got a playable deck. So it kind of was a pre-built deck, but it was like semi-seeded, pseudo-random with like some cards that would go together. So he's going to sparse some details about whether or not they're coming back, but I mean, it sounds like they are because they're popular. I don't like them. Stores don't like them. Customers do though, and what does Walmart care? Oh, and an LGS near me got in a shipment of them, so they're not just Walmart this time around, by the way. Oh, the next product he talks about is Mythic Edition. And then he literally starts with, here's a loaded one. I hope he means like, it's like a loaded question about this one, not like, here's a loaded gun. Because that's about how well this product release did. I don't want to miss a single detail he says about this, so let's burn through this whole shebang. The Mythic Edition series was an attempt by us at a few things. One, we wanted to learn what potential our new direct-to-consumer platform might have. It had the potential to crash, we all told you that. And a high-end product was a way to try that. Or a low-end product, I mean, I don't see the logic there. 2, we saw a hunger in collectors. Then put candy in the fat packs, I told you. More and more for high-end experiences. Really? Everybody complained about the price, and the only people who bought them were investors and scalpers. So we came up with Mythic Edition as an experiment of what the high-end experience would look like. You should just sell solid metal, dye-sublimated printed tokens. Like if somebody wants a durable, high-quality, pristine, prestigious collectible that will last over time, that's what it should be. You should have sold like aluminum plate tokens. Everybody would buy that. I mean, $40 for all the tokens from all standard, and you get like 3 of each. Hell, I'd buy it. So when we announced Mythic Edition with Guilds of Ravnica, the community had a very strong response. While this isn't my product, as someone who has monitored the conversation closely, I definitely have been in the mix of it. So remember, he's like in charge of designing products, and this was not his department and not his decision. That really goes a long way to explain how this happened. The first thing that hit people was just the high price combined with the new distribution method. Yeah, because we all knew it wouldn't work. Every time you launch something on that damn site, it crashes. And then it crashed. Shocker. And people got charged like $4,000 from trying to buy it like 9 times. And while there is a sharp reaction to seeing that, the many keen pundits and big community voices, hey, he's talking about me, were able to slice through that pretty well and talk about how this is really a thing for collectors. You know, maybe he's not talking about me. I mean, I did make that point. I said, you don't have to buy it. It's for collectors. Who cares? Like, just buy the cheap versions of the cards. Like, I did say that. Anyway, there's nothing here you need to be able to play the game. I should really just read a sentence ahead before I talk. See, people don't understand what collectibles are and what the point of them is. They are for the elite, I have too much money people. Anyway, he says it's all just awesome collector cosmetics. If you get it, great, but if you don't, you can still find a regular version of the card to trade for. I love how he says trade for as if nobody just goes to eBay and buys it. They are disallowed legally from mentioning the singles market or the fact that singles have value for legal reasons. Multiple legal reasons that I won't get into. So he's like, oh, you could trade for the real versions. However, the thing was much more difficult for voices in the community to defend, or the thing that was more difficult to defend was the North American only distribution. You think? Magic is a global game, and not being able to get these out across the world in today's day and age is a big problem. That's true. I can drop a letter in the mail and get it to Germany in like 5 days for like $1. This Magic is not blah, blah, blah. Okay, I already read that. Combine that with the fact that Hasbro Toy Shop sale had some ... snags as well, didn't help matters. You know what really didn't help is we all told you that was going to crash ahead of time. We've seen it before, and then it happened again. You didn't buy any more servers. You cheaped out on the bandwidth. I mean, my God. Anyway, flash forward a few months later, and the Ravnica Allegiance Mythic Edition sale on eBay went a lot smoother. I mean, yeah, like by some metrics, I wouldn't say smooth would be how I'd describe how many people wanted the product. It capped at about 12.8, I think, and then you just pulled it, the way I understand it. I think you burned the rest of them. But anyway, he says, we took your feedback, changed services, and besides a couple hiccups of the listings going down and back up, that wasn't a hiccup, you were changing the quantity. Okay, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. It went well and was sold to people all around the world. The concern around this one was significantly less now that we improved the distribution. No, you improved the platform. It's the same distribution. And the initial sticker shock has had some time to subside. No, people are still pissed about the price. Mythic Edition has morphed into something successful for us, targeted at the collector without really hurting anybody who isn't interested. See, that was my point all along. It doesn't hurt anybody. Just ignore it if you don't like it. While the exact shape of Mythic Edition probably isn't the right model for this high-end experience with each set, you can definitely expect us to keep trying things in this space. Premium metal tokens, do it. You already got the WizKids tokens. It's actually cheaper to run off metal tokens than it is to do miniatures. And by the way, I heard those sold well, especially to people like me. I bought like 12 of them because I play D&D too. And I still didn't pull the damn angel. Literally the only token I needed for one of my standard decks was the Angel, and I didn't pull the damn Angel, but I pulled some really cool like rats and stuff. Now I can play it with Gamma World and D&D. So anyway, yeah, I mean, it's functional, it's playable, it's legal to play with by a stretch because you can literally make anything into tokens, but it's not a normal full reprint. Like, I say make it collectible or don't. It's really that simple, and collectibles are not something you use on a daily basis in your deck. That's just stupid. I mean, I know people like double sleeve their $4,000 commander decks and play with $100 cards, okay? That ain't news to me. But to me, they should be in like a glass case or something, especially for that price. So I say slash the price, up the volume, and sell something for like 30, 40, 50 bucks that's like ultra cool, usable in the game. And like, you guys know, they don't make sleeves, they don't make life counters directly, they don't make playmats. Well, what are you left with? Tokens. It's the perfect middle road. And remember, tokens is not far from their radar. They made double-sided tokens, foil tokens for like the first time or second time or whatever ever. They were F&M prizes. I mean, they were all about special tokens for the longest time. And then people told them that they didn't like it, which I think it was just a small quantity of whiny people. I think they were just mad that like the Path to Exile and like Fatal push promos weren't a thing anymore. That's what they were mad about. I say make the coolest looking like borderless triple thick tokens, you know, make them out of like the same stuff that like a Monopoly board is made out of maybe. Oh, that'd be so cool. Make them oversized, undersized. People will buy that. It's functional, it's legal, but it's also collectible. It's the perfect mix. I hope that's what they do next. So next up is Signature Spellbook Jace, which is the replacement for From the Vault, sort of, except that they printed it at 100 times the quantity, probably. And also, they're not all foil, and people hated them. It was damn good value, but people didn't like the product. So, yeah, it was conceived as a spiritual successor to From the Vault. It's definitely coming back this year, by the way. Let's see, they got the unique frames on it, awesome versions of the card, alternate art, blah, blah, blah. People like the counter spell. Oh, yeah, I like the artwork. It was cool. And it's cheap enough that you could use them to bling out your deck and the cards are playable. So yeah, I think it wasn't that bad of a product. It could do better, and there were some points that people made, but just in a vacuum as a product, it was pretty all right. So he says the very first run of it did not sell out everywhere, but it also wasn't intended to, unlike From the Vault, which was meant to be super, super scarce on purpose. So, I mean, it did what they wanted to. It sold, and enough people liked it that they're bringing it back, and that's pretty much all he has to say about it. Next up, Commander Anthology Volume 2. And the subtitle is, Des made some money on that one. I mean, in my opinion, they just took the four most expensive decks, crammed them into an anthology, and sold it for a reasonable price. I sold so damn many of these. But let's see what Gavin says about this, because it's actually pretty funny. Despite architecting this product, I don't have a ton to say about this one. It's a bunch of old Commander decks in a box. I'm not joking, he said that. and it's a way to help get those decks, cards, and reprints out there. That's true. They literally picked like the foremost sought after decks and threw them in there. A+. So he says, yeah, people loved it, but they're not going to do an anthology product every single year. They're not going to do it every other year. They're just going to do it when they feel it's necessary. So when they have a good candidate, they'll do it. I think they learned from Plane Chase Anthology, which nobody even wanted in the first place. I mean, I love Plane Chase. It's one of the most fun subtypes of Magic I've ever played. But for like 150 MSRP, you can take Plane Chase and shove it, okay? I ain't made of gold, you know what I mean? Next up, I mean, it's shocking how many products they released. He's not kidding. Global Series Jiang Yangu and Mu Yanling. I'm sure I said that correctly. That didn't even come out in America, so who gives a crap? Everybody was pissed. He wrote like a whole damn book about this, and I just don't care. I really don't. So next, Heroes of Dominaria, the board game. By the way, this product was delayed as far as I can tell. I at least suspected that, and he finally confirmed it by saying, while released a little bit later than originally anticipated, this was Dominaria's Annex set. That's their term for like really weird stuff for like new people and like just real weird side products and stuff. It was an attempt at trying something new and radical. They literally just did a board game the year before. What if we did something Magic related, but that wasn't actually the card game Magic? And that was the problem with the previous one, is you had to know how to play Magic, so what was the point? And then they just turned that into game night. So, I mean, it was pretty much a new product. I looked at how it worked. It looked amazing. And honestly, the Ixalan one looked really fun too. But I never actually played this. So he hints that they might do something like this in the future, but it'll be through WizKids, who they now have a contract with. That's kind of a newer thing, so that's interesting. And finally, that was the last one. Oh my gosh. So according to him, everything was great, everything was perfect, every single one had little minor tiny things, but was a massive success, which is very far from the truth. A lot of stuff they released this year compared to last year did do well, but I think he's overstating it significantly. Either he's lying to himself, he's being presented with incorrect numbers, or he's listening to a small subset of people on social media that is not representative of the entire community. Something's going on. It could just be, like I said, the way he's presenting it to us in this article, but he seems a little bit, rose-colored glasses looking at all these. Not a smart idea. So that is his review of every product that came out, a little behind the scenes information, some info about whether it's coming out in the future or not, if they'll bring it back, what they're going to change, what they learned. I found it absolutely fascinating, gave my opinion on a bunch of the stuff. And yeah, you might feel like I was going really hard on Wizards, but that's because I want them to fix all their problems. I mean, you can't come off of the worst 2 years that Standard has ever had, almost. Darksteel, Cobblade, Alpha, anything involving Anti. But I mean, coming off of just Disaster Zone, where even Wizards admitted that 2017 was a disaster, yeah, 2018 was a pretty big improvement. So maybe that's why he's looking at these with, a little bit of a positive spin. And whatever. What other points did you guys see about these products? Which ones did you like or didn't? What do you think about him saying which ones are coming back and what they're changing? Honestly, most of the stuff, the vast majority of it, I'm like, yeah, you do need to fix that. Good, you are working on that. Good, you did acknowledge that. So that's cool. But a couple of them, boy, worrying levels of misinterpreting what's going on and what the customers want. So I expect a couple more strikes or whiffs or whatever you want to call them, mulligans in 2019. But the one thing I can't wait to see is that reprint draft set, the modern heavy reprint draft set. That is going to be interesting. Word is, mostly from Mark Rosewater and a couple others, that the staff is crazy excited about it. Like, more than any product they've made ever, I think was the phrase. So whatever wacky rules they're adding and the way that they're making us build the decks or something is going to be wild. It could be like a mini commander draft, like a singleton 49+1 draft, where you're not allowed to have more than one copy of a card or something. And it's like, oh, that might be it. Maybe you're supposed to draft a singleton deck. Maybe after drafting, you have like 10 minutes to like trade cards with other people, like on your team or just anybody at the table. And the set has like 1,500 cards in it. So theoretically, you wouldn't get past the same card twice. And then also, it's a huge amount of reprints, but a low volume of each. I think I cracked it. I think they're doing something like that. I mean, there are some production issues, cutting issues, sorting issues, box mapping issues with that. It's not perfect, but we'll see. Well, isn't that interesting? So anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next video.